Yes. Thanks everyone for joining today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carmel Thomas. My role currently in corporate America is Senior Manager of Supplier Diversity, and that falls within the realm of supply chain management. And I have a background in engineering, so I have my undergrad degree in engineering technology, product design integration, and my master's in industrial engineering, engineering management focus. And I am a beneficiary of the LSAMP program. Even way before I understood the program and knew what it meant, I participated in the summer engineering experience that Fermilab puts on, and that's one of their extensions. Sandra Charles and her team were my early exposure to STEM and kind of helped me along my path. And fast forward to 2013, I believe it was around 2013, I got involved with the Midwest Center of Excellence on their advisory board. And really my role at that time was kind of that corporate ear, and then also being in the shoes of our prospective student body and scholars, being able to kind of make some links and connections to, what students might be interested in. And through my relationship with the advisory board for the Midwest Center of Excellence and the various jobs that I've had in my career, and as I've transitioned, I've looked to make that connection similar to what I got from LSAMP, make that connections to students to see themselves one day in these future careers and really get to see, touch, feel, interact, engage, get a real life preview of what it would be like to work in these careers. Because so often it's an abstract concept, if you will, when you think about what you're doing, or it's very theoretical. And so helping them to kind of get the applications, and even from a mentorship standpoint, there's so many questions that young people may have from personal life, navigating the corporate scene, and then even making transitions throughout a career. I mentioned earlier that I'm in supply chain. I started off in research and development, applications engineering, really heavily in consumer products, and then in the automotive industry. And within the last 5 years, I've transitioned more to a leadership standpoint. And so hopefully I'm working on my way to be a director of supply chain and having that leadership role. So for me, it's even more important to make sure that we're engaging and showing these different journeys and pathways to students. And so I'm going to walk through a partnership that Eaton Corporation, the company I currently work for, has developed with LSAMP and the Midwest Center of Excellence since 2018 is when we kind of kicked off. And, I invite you guys as we're walking through. I have 5 slides, so I didn't want to overwhelm the presentation. But as I was talking and getting ready, I realized my slides were straight to business. I'm straight an engineer, right? I'm getting right into the meat and going through the data. And I needed to probably step back and talk about who is Eaton and why are we, even having this conversation and supporting things. So I will jump back and forth between 2 presentation decks, just to one, give you 2-slide overview of the company, and then talk about the relationship and the program that we've been building with Eaton Corp, with LSAMP. So before I get started, are there any early questions? No? Okay. So let me go ahead and bring up my presentation here. And then I will share my screen. So share my screen. And share. Okay, so on my side, it says that I'm sharing. So everyone should be seeing my screen. Please stop me, someone, if for some reason it goes out. But just to give an overview of Eaton, and again, I just want to high level set who Eaton is and what the corporation does. And so a good way to think about Eaton Corporation is that we are an intelligent power management company. The products and services that Eaton makes deal with power, whether it be electrical power or mechanical power, and until recently, hydraulic power. We recently sold that business. But to give you an idea of the company, we're about 18 billion in sales for size. Locations all over the country. Some of the key locations are our corporate headquarters in Cleveland. And I have a little snippet of that, how we've involved LSAMP in that as well. We've got facilities on both coasts, LA all the way over to Maryland and the DMV area, and then through the South and up through Canada and North America. So we're a global company. Our chairman and CEO is actually one of, I think it's 4 now, African-American CEOs of a Fortune 500 company. So diversity, inclusion, and building that pipeline is very important and near and dear to us as a company. And then, we reached a milestone recently where I think it's 2/3 of our board of directors are women or US minorities. And so again, we're still on our journey to be even more inclusive as we can be, but it's certainly part of who Eaton is. And, when I brought the aspect of partnering with LSAMP, I got full engagement, full support from the organization. So we're really excited to continue the work that we've been doing. One more slide about Eaton, and this is just to give you an idea of how the company is structured. There's 2 divisions, the electrical sector and the industrial sector. And within each of those sectors, there's a number of businesses. Each of these businesses focuses on a different area. So for industrial, we have the aerospace business. We have the filtration business and the vehicle business, electric vehicles, e-mobility, and we even have a software. The slide is a little out of date because we've divested hydraulics, but we even have a software group that helps to deal with Internet of Things, both within some of our products, but also helping to get real-time data for utilities or things like that we're into. So real high level, this is kind of an overview of the company. I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking about the company. I wanted to talk about our relationship with LSAMP. So I'll jump over and I'll pause as I'm transitioning presentations and ask if there's any questions thus far. Okay, so the meat of why we're here. In 2018, as we were going through changes in the Department of Education, there were some holdup for the Midwest Center of Excellence and being able to have their annual conference, actually the conference that we're at now. And so, being on the advisory board, I said, hey, I've got conference rooms. Do you guys want to, if I give you rooms and space, can we bring the students here? And this was in Southfield, Michigan. In Southfield, Michigan, we also have a high number of scientists and engineers with PhDs. We have a number of labs and center of excellence for things like additive manufacturing, friction and tribology, just various different businesses, material science that are all housed in Southfield. So we had a lot of things that could be of interest to students. And so we had our first in-person event that we later branded the Eaton Experience. That experience has grown. To date, we've hosted 5 events. And our upcoming week is November 14th through 19th. So we took a pause at the end of 2020 with the pandemic. And we're looking at slowly re-engaging and bringing students onto site. So we've hosted 5 events, a total of 230 attendees, representing 40 institutions. One of the things we kept consistent was also hosting a tech poster session. And we leverage all of the PhDs and scientists that we have on our campus to be judges and mentors for the students. We've also had speed networking, which has really been a highlight of the events, where students have an opportunity to sit one-on-one with an Eaton employee and ask any question they may have. And it's great to hear students ask questions even outside of career. They want advice on juggling life and career and all the things that come with that. And so we've had great engagement there. And due to the success of the event, the Midwest Center of Excellence was actually wrote and granted some supplemental funds and grants from the NSF to help support students being able to come out to these events. And so we had a number of events in 2019. 2020, we snuck one in right before everything kind of shut down. And that was at our headquarters, North American headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio. I think we had about 60 or so students come out. And so a lot of engagement from the local alliances, a lot of engagement from the students. I have some videos here that I won't play, but I will send the videos in the chat so that you guys can take a look at them. But the videos are actually kind of showcasing what happened during the events, and I have some pictures as well. But we pivoted in 2020 and really focused on supporting LSAMP through the Summer Speaker Series. One of the things that came out of our engagement with the tech poster sessions is interest in IP and patent law and how to support and protect engineers and students and scientists as they're doing their research and presenting in them. And then also as a potential career, whether at Eaton or another company in IP and patent law. So we've had a lot of support from that aspect. In our summer series, we partnered Eaton with individuals from academia to get both sides of, what does it look like to have that support in disclosures and anything that you come up with in the university or corporate setting. So that's been a great hit. This May, we had our first Eaton LSAMP interns. They did exceptionally well. I have a slide towards the end of the presentation to talk about their experience, but we engaged LSAMP not with the intention of, we want to hire all the students. Of course, we want to hire all the students, but it's really about mentoring, showing them, engaging them, and our employees are just as excited as I am to be able to pour into the next generation of talent. And this summer, we've got a number of sessions throughout this conference, but in November, the 15th or the 19th, we're taking our Eaton Experience in a hybrid model. So we want to be able to open it up to as many students as possible. So we'll be leveraging some virtual sessions where we'll be doing corporate overview, career overview, PhD panel, speed mentoring. That's available to anyone who registers virtually, but we'll also be opening up 3 of our facilities, 3 of our sites to welcome a small group of students in person, and their support for that. Because it's limited, we have already engaged with the alliances, so that's pretty full. But as we go forward, and hopefully as this pandemic subsides, we'll be opening back up our facilities, which have capacity for most to host at least 50 students at full capacity. Again, I'll pause because I don't want to make sure I get any questions that you guys might have or any feedback that you may have as well. I'll also say that, while I have an outline of what we're doing with LSAMP today, I certainly welcome your feedback when you think about corporate America or the perspective of what we're trying to do. I welcome your feedback and how we can improve and engage the alliances more and also be of service. So any comments or recommendations, I certainly welcome that as well. Okay, so I'll move on if there are no questions. And these are just some pictures from our events that we had in person. You can see our first event in Southfield, Michigan. We had 50 scholars come out and be represented, and 19 tech posters presented. So most of these students were from Ohio, Michigan, and I think there were a couple from Indiana from IUPUI. So that was the focus of here. We actually also had some from Missouri, from the alliances out there as well. Harriet Stowe University, I believe, was the school that carried a number of students. And so, this is open to all students from all backgrounds, right? Because they can all take away something about the professional environment that they may not get on a campus. And so we wanted that engagement there. And then we also, from the facilities in 2019, this picture here is the group in Texas. They had about 60 students kind of show up the day of, and we definitely have the capability down there in Texas to flex. So that was no problem for us. But we also have some smaller sessions. So this picture here where you see the students and then the employees in black, this was our speed mentoring session. And so we set a clock. We wanted it to be speed because we didn't want someone to sit with one person all day. We wanted them to move around and get different perspectives. And so we set aside an hour, and I think it was 5 or 6 minutes per person. And then of course we had a networking session that they could follow up later if they had additional questions. But this way they got to speak to different people of different backgrounds. And the picture I have here is actually in Syracuse, New York. So we worked with the Upstate Alliance, and there were 2 alliances. So one of them was with Buffalo, and one of them was with Syracuse. And so I'm not, it's escaping me the differences between the alliances, but this was a manufacturing plant. And so it was a different perspective for students to see how the technology actually goes into, getting product out the door. And then I'll skip forward to this year. So we have 3 facilities that we're looking to open up to in person. One of them is in Houston. So we have connected with the local alliances there to identify students. We're keeping it under 15 to come in and actually do some of the hands-on workshops and engagement. And then also we'll be in our Pittsburgh Center, which is an experience center. I have a couple of videos as well to give you an idea of what's in this facility. And there's a picture here, but if you can imagine an engineering Disneyland, if you will, that's what I call it. There's product demonstrations, there's a oil rig that's set up with sensors that we actually use these facilities to train our own employees. And so the experience will not be someone sitting and talking to you for an hour. It'll be hands-on, you're moving, you're going through simulations, you're doing art quench demonstrations. And then the latest, kind of the newer group, is our Golf Pride business unit. If you're a golfer, you may be familiar with Golf Pride golf grips. That's actually a division of Eaton that we own. And there's a lot that goes into, making golf clubs and making grips that work. There's material science, there's physics, there's math, there's all kinds of science that goes behind that. And so that'll be a new center that we're opening up. And it's a beautiful campus on the top of one of the country's best golf courses. So we're excited to get that engagement there. But outside of the on-site, you can see we have a number of virtual sessions. And again, these sessions will be open to all. We have 2 groups that do a lot of work with the US government for research, but also just in general, 2 groups that are heavily research focused. So we want to highlight those. They hire a lot of candidates with masters and PhDs. Doing a quick poll with HR, we have 356 employees that actually have identified as having PhDs. And so there's definitely plenty of potential throughout the organization. And we want to make sure that we're getting these touch points with the students. This is our plan for this year. But one of my hopes is that engaging with you guys on this session, we can think about what are some of the other ways we can engage with the alliances that we can either pull from the resource we already have, or we can vie for more resources and expand in 2022 as we look at getting past the pandemic and the world opening back up. How can we grow? And I'm going to pause because I actually would like some feedback from the group to see, what are your thoughts thus far? What are ways we can engage that maybe we're not doing today? And as you think about the partnership and the things that I've talked about, what are your thoughts on how we can support your alliances wherever you may be? Chuck, I'm going to call on you because I see you came off of mute there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was not sure if there was a hand raised button or whatever, and I didn't just want to speak. So I'm glad you called, because I don't know if I would have ever said anything. So I think what you and your company are doing is absolutely fabulous. There is a question in the chat from Catherine Thomas, and I have the same sort of questions. But one of the things I was just wondering, I am at a community college, technical and community college in Wisconsin, and I was just curious how much participation you have from the community colleges that are in the alliance. Are they? Do you believe they're well represented, or is that an area of opportunity? I was just curious.
Yeah, so from the events that we've had, they've been well represented in Michigan. The event we had in Michigan, and in the event we had in Ohio. We've certainly welcomed community college students because we believe the pipeline is valuable from beginning to end. So we definitely want to touch on all those bases. And so I've worked with Deb Cole to make sure we engage them. And it's interesting when you talk about research, and I mentioned Harriet Stowe University in Missouri, because I still remember the student who presented research about largemouth bass. And it had nothing to do with my background, but the students were so prepared and they really represented from the community college aspect all the way up. And so my leadership is definitely welcoming community college students. I think 2 of the students that we've identified for the on-site events will actually be represented from community colleges. And additionally, the event we had in Ohio, the Ohio LSAMP, they also represented very well with their students. We had a bus come from the Columbus area and the community college there that is near to the Ohio State University. They're in the same region. We used all of the alliance and targeted making sure we had that representation. So we can continue, Chuck, to look at how we're expanding that reach. And I've relied heavily on the alliances to bring the students, but with the guidance that yes, absolutely, community college students are welcome.
Thank you.
And Chuck, if you don't mind me asking, what school or institution are you with or associated with?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm with Madison College or Madison Area Technical College. We have about 30,000 students over 12 counties or parts of 12 counties, serving both rural and urban areas. Our main campus is in Madison, Wisconsin, which is south central Wisconsin. We're about 2 hours west, well, I guess northwest of Chicago. And Madison's the capital city. Yep. So our campuses in Madison are very much urban area.
Yeah, and so Chuck, we actually in 2019 we tried to have an event in our South Milwaukee facilities, and we reached out to the Madison area, and I think there were 14 students who were interested, and we did end up having to cancel the event because we didn't get to the anticipated number, and it was just for buy-in. And so we'll make sure as we go forward, we have a number of facilities in our electrical group and almost a mini experience center where we engage with that local area. But we're outside of Milwaukee. Waukesha is one area, and I'm trying to think of the other one, but a number in that Milwaukee area. So we definitely have opportunity. We tried in the past and we just didn't get the numbers we were expecting. And that was something that we've also talked about, right? Just because we didn't have the numbers we were expecting, can we scale and adjust? And I think at the time it was new and there was a fear that we wouldn't even get the 14 that registered. So there were two sites actually, one in Wisconsin, and I think one in Minnesota, where we didn't get the turnout that we were expecting. And so the events were canceled, but we definitely look to expand that and reconnect as we come out of the current situation.
Yeah, I think I remember actually. I was trying to get some students there, and we sort of came to the party late. So I was quickly trying to find some students. But yeah, I welcome another initiative to have some events at the Milwaukee and Waukesha locations, and I'll shake the trees and gather as many students for that opportunity as possible when all of this pandemic stuff is over.
Absolutely, and part of my thoughts today, and I'm learning through this process, right? I'm the lead for this, and it's really a passion project, but I'm having to learn how to navigate the space of, every facility has different requirements. There are some of our facilities, especially in aerospace, that are ITAR certified, right? So we have to make sure that if we're going to certain labs that, we understand citizenship. And we had that actually as a case in Southfield, where we definitely welcomed all the students who wanted to come, but we took them to different labs just to make sure that we didn't, have any conflicts. And so we'll definitely work around. And one thing that I wanted to add is that LSAMP, or the Midwestern of Excellence, you'll have to talk to Deb Cole. I'm gonna put her out there to understand the ins and out of the grant, because it's really not something I understand. But the grant is written to bring students to Eaton Corporation for these experiences. And so there's travel funds. And so while we definitely want to keep local students to go to our local events because it's easier access, if there's students who have high interest, it may be worth the investment for the Alliance to make sure that student can get to wherever the event may be. And so maybe that's something that Chuck and others, you guys know who your stars are, and you know kind of how to support the students, and the grant money is there. So again, I would talk to the Alliance to understand how it can be utilized. But even if we're not in your area, we know we're going to have, some events coming up here. Maybe there's an opportunity to get those students, if they're able and available, to get them to another site. Anyone else? Catherine, I see you came off mute there as well. Can I call on you? Did you have a question?
I did. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just, I'm thinking like my alliance is a collaboration between 3 community colleges. So we're in the LSAMP Bridge to the Baccalaureate grant. And I'm thinking about, as I reach out to like larger tech companies in the area, just like from your perspective and experience and speaking with your colleagues, when looking at websites to try to find points of contact, who should we be looking for? Because sometimes the person with the title really is not the one who facilitates, things that, would be useful for us, such as site visits and, requests for speakers and things like that. So just any suggestions on what we should look for when we're looking at the sites, keywords to look out for would be helpful.
Yeah, so, going through the websites, it is a challenge because I think externally facing, we tend to be very vague intentionally. So I would say the first branch is early talent, even with one thing about corporate America, and I'm sure this is similar to your organizations, is there has to be an owner and kind of a gatekeeper of everything. So even with me being an advisory board member, if I want to get into recruiting, I have to make sure I align with the early talent team and what they're doing. Otherwise, I can do all the work in the world, but if it doesn't align with the people who actually are the gatekeepers, then I'm just kind of working in a bubble, and we don't want that, right? So I would say early talent is a good way, but then I would also say a lot of companies have employee resource groups, and to the effect of the LSAMP relationship with Eaton, it is run through one of our employee resource groups. And that's just because, again, everything has to have an owner, right? If it's not assigned to someone, then there's no one to talk to or no point. And so that's always a good place too, is to talk to the various employee resource groups. And I collaborate with all of the employee resource groups, especially when it comes to students of diverse backgrounds, or even women in STEM. There's different groups to pull on. And then it also gives me a wider net. So, as you're going to these conferences, it's always good to, kind of introduce yourself and ask. I will say that person may not know. So you may ask 2 or 3 people, because it's a big company, right? We have 100,000 employees. And so if I said LSAMP, one person would be like, oh yeah, Carmel, next person would be like, look at you clueless. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I would say ask multiple people, start with early talent and ask them if there's a way to get connected, and also employee resource groups is really your way, because you're going to get different answers, and just be prepared for that, right? People aren't trying to be vague or trying to be wrong, but it's a large group and we don't always know the right answer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to I think this is my last slide, but before I do, and maybe I can drop some things in the chat. So I set up the Eaton booth, and I've also set up some pictures and images for registration for the week. So what I would like to do is, as people are interested in register for the week, we'll take those names and we'll send out meeting invites for the various meetings. So Monday's meeting may have one meeting invite. Wednesdays will have another. So as we iron out those things, please, use the link to register, and that's how we'll communicate, and also share it with your alliances and share it with your teams. I think I mentioned earlier that we had our first LSAMP interns this summer, and they did exceptionally well. And everybody's excited about this secret society of talent that we're tapping into. And so we've got the go ahead from our talent team to do some recruiting during this conference. So I have a link to our recruiting software, and that's what we use for our intake. And so I ask that you share that with your students and have them upload their resumes and go through that, because when we get to Saturday, we'll be pulling up our tablets and meeting candidates and giving our notes and information. And then our recruiting team will be going through and saying, okay, this is who we want to follow up with interviews for. So we're just kind of the first pass, but we do have that support. And there's about 31 requisitions or postings. And in each posting, there's a number of openings. So there's a lot of opportunity. And I want to make sure that, you know, the students get an opportunity to be recognized, to apply, and to get into that pipeline. And one of the things that we saw, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up here. One of the things that came up, you know, when we did this internship, I got the opportunity to source the interns. And so I was very intentional about kind of finding the diamonds in the rough that had potential, but maybe they didn't have experience, or maybe they weren't as polished. So they weren't ready to be sharks at the booth, but they were talented and they were passionate. And I found two that fit this mode, and they were also young. So Elisa, she had finished her freshman year. She's a 2024 graduate. And then Jonah is graduating 2023. So both top talents, both very shy. I'll call them shy. They're apprehensive. And honestly, when they walked up to me, I was like, you guys you're not ready, but you're definitely qualified. And so we worked with them. And from the first time I said, hey, show me your elevator pitch, to the end of the internship, 360. These students are confident. They know that they can do it. They have no problem going up to leadership and introducing themselves. Of course, they're still their reserved self. They just happen to be reserved, but it's amazing. And this is just kind of the feedback, you know, that we got from one of the interns, and resoundingly working with the LSAMP Eaton group, we worked on their professional presence and their development. And to know that, you know, when you walk up to someone, you are auditioning, if you will, and you are having to represent yourself. And so that's one of the benefits that I personally really enjoyed working with the students, is seeing that growth and seeing that development. And even just being in a corporate setting, Jonah was able to have an in-person internship, where Elisa, she was remote from the Ohio State campus, but she did get to travel up to our headquarters in Cleveland to meet with her team. And so the professional experience just really helped them see, like, wow, this is what I'm studying, but this is what I could do with it. And I didn't even know a job existed in, you know, sustainability and engineering and supply chain, which was something that Elisa got to do. So, you know, I'm excited about it. I personally take a passion and satisfaction out of seeing kind of the growth and this opportunity for the students. I see someone came off of mute there. Is it Jean?
No, sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to make sure if you had a question or a comment there. So again, you know, I appreciate the questions we've had so far, and I look forward to, you know, showing you guys what we have, but also, you know, I don't want it to be a one-way flow of information. I love to hear your feedback and how we can pivot or how we can grow. And we can put that in a plan and put it in a pipeline and help these students to, you know, get those opportunities and to have a fruitful career if they so choose to go down that corporate route. And even internships, if they want to get some work experience to help support their future academic careers, you know, that's also an opportunity where sometimes it's helpful to get a different perspective to help benefit your research and your other aspirations. Okay. So I'm going to start dropping some things in the chat, just because some of these links, I'm not sure if the audio will play through the screen. I'll let you watch those at your time, but this video, put it in full screen just in case it doesn't play. This is from our 2020 February event at in Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Okay.
So bringing students to Eaton Corporation's headquarters for various visits is an opportunity for us at the Lewis Stokes Midwest Regional Center of Excellence to partner with the LSAMP alliances around the Midwest and allow students hand-on experiences with the work in industry.
I would completely recommend other students, like 100% come here. Even if you're not part of STEM, just come here and learn about like what Eaton does and just get your mind blown a little bit.
Building the partnership between industry and academia is one way of broadening the participation and let the student know that their pathway to the STEM career is multidimensional. And this opportunity today have exposed the student not only the pathway and the option they may have in their career in STEM, but it also reinforced that it is possible.
I enjoyed my time this morning and this afternoon at Eaton Corporation because I was able to connect with real Eaton employees and understand why they work here for the culture and to understand the perseverance and determination it takes to be like somebody in their shoes.
The value for an experience like this for students who are interested in any area of STEM is phenomenal. I think back when I was a student as an undergraduate, and I never ever had the experience of really seeing myself in a position or understanding the possibilities of where I could go.
We recognize that students often think about science careers or engineering careers as quite abstract, but bringing them here to Eaton provides an opportunity where they can see what folks who look like them are doing day in and day out, and not just imagining what's possible in this work.
And I think that is the end here. So that's pretty much the end of our presentation, right? I just wanted to give you guys an understanding of what the partnership is today. Even if
I'm
after
Power
this,
5 meteorologist Ramisha Shade. We can celebrate. We made it.
even as we depart, the session, as we wrap up here, if you guys think of things, I'll be around all conference. We have a booth that you can come in and drop a note here. But, definitely think about how this relationship can be brought to your school or brought to your region and how we can continue to support our students as far as being successful and seeing themselves in future. So I'll go ahead and close, but thank you guys for your time. Feel free to reach out to myself or Deb, Cole, if you have any questions, and I'll keep dropping a couple links into the post because I do want students to be able to apply. We're in the peak of recruiting season, so I do want them to be able to apply. But thank you guys and have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you.